Welcome to Vedanta Bhakti Pravachanam channel. In our channel, we are looking into Sri Sai Baba sarcharitra. In that Sai sarcharitra, up to this moment, we have read up to 18 and 19 chapters. Now, we are seeing into 20th chapter. In this chapter, what Sai Baba has told, that we will know. Sai was originally formless. He assumed a form for the sake of bhaktas. With the help of actress Maya, he played the part of the actor in the big drama of the universe. Let us remember and visualize Sri Sai. Let us go to Shirdi and see carefully the program after the noon Aarti. After the Aarti ceremony was over, Sai used to come out of the masjid and standing on its edge, distribute Udi to the devotees with very kind and loving looks. The bhaktas also got up with equal forever, elapsed his feet, and standing and staring at him, enjoyed the shower of Udi. Baba passed handfuls of Udi into the palms of the devotees and marked their foreheads with Udi with his fingers. The love he bore for them in his heart was boundless. Then he addresses the bhaktas as follows: O Bhavu, go to take your lunch. You Anna, go to your lodgings. You Bapu, enjoy your dishes. In this way, he accosted each and every devotee and sent them home. Even now, you can enjoy these sights if you bring into play your imagination. You can visualize and enjoy them. Now, on bringing Sai before our mental vision, let us meditate on him from his feet upwards to his face and prostrating before him humbly, lovingly, and respectfully, revert to the story of this chapter. Isha Upanishad. Das Ganu once started to write a Marathi commentary on the Isha Upanishad. Let us first give a brief idea of this Upanishad before proceeding further. It is called a Mantropanishad as it is embodied in the mantras of the Vedic Samhita. It constitutes the last or the 40th chapter of the Vaidyanesa Samhita, Yajurveda, and it is therefore called Vaidyanesiya Samhitopanishad. Being embodied in the Vedic Samhitas, this is regarded as superior to all other Upanishads which occur in the Brahmanas and Aranyakas. Not only this, other Upanishads are considered to be commentaries on the truths mentioned briefly in this Isha Upanishad. For instance, the biggest of the Upanishads, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is considered by Pandit Satvekar to be a running commentary on the Isha Upanishad. Professor R.D. Ranade says the Upanishad is quite a small Upanishad and it contains many hints which show an extraordinary piercing insight. Within the short compass of 18 verses, it gives a valuable mystical description of the Atma, a description of the ideal sage who stands unruffled in the midst of the temptations and sorrows, and admiration of the doctrine or Karma Yoga as later formulated, and finally a reconciliation of the claims of knowledge and works, the most valuable ideas. This lies at the root of the Upanishad is that of a logical synthesis between the two opposites of knowledge and works which are both required according to the Upanishads to be endured in a higher synthesis. The poetry of the Isha Upanishad is a commixture of moral. From the brief description given above, this Upanishad, anyone can see how difficult it is to translate the Upanishad in a vernacular language and bring out its exact meaning. Das Kanu translated it in Marathi, Vovi meter, verse by verse. But as he did not comprehend the gist or essence of the Upanishad, he was not satisfied with his performance. On being dissatisfied, he consulted some learned men regarding his doubts and difficulties and discussed it with him at great length. They did not solve them, nor did they give him any rational and satisfactory explanation. So, Dasganu was a little restless over this matter. Sadguru only competent and qualified to explain. As we seen, this Upanishad is the quintessence of the Vedas, is the science of self-realization, is the scythe or weapon which can rend asunder the bondage of life and death and make us free. Therefore, he thought that he who has himself attained self-realization can only give him the true or correct interpretation of the Upanishad. When nobody could satisfy Dasganu, he resolved to consult Sai Baba about this. When he got an opportunity to go to Shirdi, he saw Sai Baba, prostrated himself before him, and mentioned his difficulties about the Isha Upanishad and requested him to give the correct solution. Sai Baba blessed him and said, "You need not be anxious. There is no difficulty about the matter. The maid servant of Kaka Dikshit will solve your doubts at Ville Parle on your way home." The people who were present then and heard this thought that Baba was joking and said, "How could an illiterate maid servant solve the difficulties of this nature?" But Dasganu thought otherwise. He was sure that whatever Baba spoke must come true. Baba's word with decree of the Brahma Almighty, Kaka's maid servant. On fully believing in Baba's words, he left Shirdi and came to Ville Parle and stayed with Kaka Sahib Dikshit. There the next day, when Dasganu was enjoying this morning nap, some say when he was engaged in worship, he heard a poor girl singing a beautiful song in clear and melodious tones. The subject matter of the song was a crimson colored sari. How nice it was, how fine was its embroidery, how beautiful were its ends and borders, etc. He liked the song so much that he came out and saw that it is being sung by a young girl, the sister of Namya, who was a servant of Kaka Sahib. The girl was cleaning vessels and had only a torn rag on her person. On seeing her impoverished condition and her jovial temperament, Dasganu felt pity for her, and when Rao Bahadur M.V. Pradhan next day gave him a pair of dhotars, he requested him to give a sari to the poor little girl also. Rao Bahadur bought a good chadri and presented it to her. Like a starving person getting luckily good dishes to eat, her joy knew no bounds. Next day, she wore the new sari and out of great joy and merriment, whirled, danced round and played fagadi with her girls and excelled them all. The day following, she kept the new sari in her box at home and came with the old and torn rags, but she looked as merry as she had the previous day. On seeing this, Dasganu's pity was transferred into admiration. He thought that the girl, being poor, had to wear a torn rag, but now she had a new sari which she kept in reserve, and putting on the old rag, stirred herself, showing no trace of sorrow or dejection. Thus he realized that all our feelings of pain and pleasure depend upon the attitude of our mind. On thinking deeply over this incident, he realized that a man ought to enjoy whatever God was bestowed on him in the form of conviction, that he bears everything from behind and before and on all sides, and that whatever is bestowed on him by God must be for his good. In this particular case, the impoverished condition of the poor girl, her torn rag and a new sari, the dona, the doni, and the acceptance were all parts of the Lord and provided by him. Here, Dasganu got a practical demonstration of the lesson of the Upanishad, the lesson of contentment with one's own lot in the belief that whatever happens is ordained by God and is ultimately good for us. From the above incident, the reader will see that Baba's method was unique and varied. Though Baba never left Shirdi, he sent home to Machindragada, some to Kolhapur or Sholapur for practicing sadhanas. To some, he appeared in his usual form, To some, he appeared in walking or dreaming states, day or night, and satisfied their desires. It is impossible to describe all the methods that Baba used in imparting instructions to his bhaktas. In this particular case, he is sent to Das Ganu to Ville Parle, where he got his problem solved through the maid servant. To those who say that it was not necessary to send Das Ganu outside and that Baba could have personally taught him, we say that Baba followed the right or best course, or how else could Das Ganu would have learned a great lesson that the poor maid servant and her sari were provided by the Lord. Now we close the chapter with another beautiful extract about this Upanishad. The ethics of the Isha. One of the main features of the Isha Upanishad is the ethical advice it offers. And it is interesting to note that the ethics of the Upanishad are definitely based upon the metaphysical position advanced in it. Their opening very words of the Upanishad tell us that God provides everything. As a corollary from his metaphysical position, the ethical advice it offers it that man ought to enjoy whatever God bestows on him in the firm belief that he was privileged follow naturally that the Upanishad should forbid us from coveting other man's property. In fact, we are fittingly taught here a lesson of contentment with one's whole lot in the belief that whatever happens, it is divinely ordained and it is hence good for us. Another moral advice is the man must spend his lifetime always in doing action. Specifically, the karmas enjoyed in the Shastras is a mood of believing resignation to his all, to his will. Inactivity, according to the Upanishad, would be the canker of the soul. It is only when a man spends his lifetime in doing actions in this manner that he can hope to attain the ideal Naishkarmya. Finally, to text goes on to say that a man who sees all beings in the self and sees the self as existing in all beings, in fact, for whom all beings and everything that exists have become the self, how can such a man suffer infatuation? What ground would such a man have for grief, loathfulness, infatuation, and grief verily proceed from our not being able to see the Atma in all things, but a man who realizes the oneness of all things, for whom everything has become the self must ipso facto cease to be affected by the common foibles of the humanity. Bow to Sri Sai, peace be to all.